My name is Christopher Russell. I have a law degree from Wake Forest University. I held a top secret clearance with the Department of Defense through the National Reconnaissance Office and with the State Department. I want to be your next president. You cannot get the information about how bad this is and how crazy this is from regular news sources, basically no matter how well you cultivate your media diet, because they don't have law degrees and I do. So I'm going to explain it. Please stick around to the end. Follow, share this post. This is incredibly important and utterly terrifying. They tried to deploy National Guards into Portland, and the Oregon government said, we don't want them. And an Oregon judge, Immergut, said that you can't do that. Stephen Miller then tweeted calling it a legal insurrection. They are setting the precedent for declaring an insurrection, using the Insurrection Act to send troops into U.S. cities. 15 days ago, they declared Antifa to be a domestic terrorist organization. It is directly an attempt to suppress free speech and to violate your constitutional rights. In other words, this executive order and the subsequent presidential memorandum, NSPM 7, are themselves a violation of 18 U.S.C. 241. Trump was himself indicted under 18 U.S.C. 241 for trying to overthrow the 2020 election, but he was ruled immune from criminal prosecution, presumptively in many cases, and absolutely for cases within specific presidential duties by the Supreme Court that consists largely of justices that he appointed. So no corruption there to worry about, obviously. 18 U.S.C. 241 is conspiracy against rights. It says, if two or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or because of his having so exercised the same. Or if two or more persons go in disguise on the highway or on the premises of another with intent to prevent or hinder his free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege so secured, then they shall be fined under this title or imprisoned, not more than 10 years or both. And it goes on. When you are exercising or enjoying your First Amendment right to oppose this administration, to protest, to hold up signs, to call them fascists, to call yourself an anti-fascist or a member of Antifa, which is not a group, which Eisenhower and Patton belonged to. That is an exercise of your right, and if they violate that right by conspiracy, then they can be charged under this act, just like he was for trying to overturn the 2020 election. The executive order declaring Antifa a domestic terror organization, the NSPM 7 directive for law enforcement agencies and joint terrorism task forces to target, interrogate, question, and charge wherever possible people identified arbitrarily as Antifa. Those acts by this president are in violation of 18 U.S.C. 241. I'm just some joker with a law degree. I have not taken the bar. This is not legal advice. It's not a legal prescription. It is a simple reading of the U.S. Code, the same way that you could do. But you have no reason to understand all of these things. And this is not a complete, comprehensive history. This is a direct line from A to B. We charged him for this once, and now they're using force to suppress your speech, to conspire. They've directed federal law enforcement and National Guard, and apparently in the works is sending the 82nd Airborne U.S. troops into Portland. We got those texts. Did you miss that? Maybe you did. They are conspiring to violate your rights, to target you, to suppress your speech, to make you afraid, to prosecute you. And that's a violation of this code. Ironically, NSPM 7 invokes this very statute as part of its authority to target you. Because what they want this statute to be interpreted as saying is that if you are protesting, say, outside of a Republican congressman's office, or you yell and you're there with a second person at a town hall, that you, by using your speech, are conspiring to restrict someone else's rights. That is false. It is a false legal interpretation. It is a fiction. It is a violation of your rights to assert that interpretation of this statute. The next part is the most important. So please, if you're still watching, use every button here. Follow me if you're not following me. Like, comment, favorite, share this post, and repost. This is incredibly important. We have, in the span of 15 days, gone from declaring Antifa a fictional organization to be a domestic terrorist organization, to 12 days ago using joint terrorism task forces against an unidentified organization targeting you and your civil rights, to now their favorite word is insurrection. After the Civil War, black citizens were being harassed, oppressed. They were prevented from voting. So U.S. Army troops were deployed throughout the South to protect their rights. But that led to the Posse Comitatus Act. Posse Comitatus prevents the president from deploying U.S. troops now from any of the armed forces, or from federalizing guard troops in each state and using them for domestic law enforcement. That is illegal. He cannot deploy U.S. troops, although they're already talking about deploying the 82nd Airborne. So they're going to invoke the Insurrection Act. The Insurrection Act is an exception to Posse Comitatus. It allows the president to declare that armed rebellion or civil disorder creating mass national disruption has to cease, and he can deploy troops and federalize National Guard in order to enforce those declarations. This is illegal if he does it now, because we're not facing an armed insurrection. We're not facing an invasion of illegal enemies, allowing him to invoke the Alien Enemies Act. There is no reason for him to be able to deploy U.S. troops, but they are already planning on it. These texts have leaked. If you haven't seen the news, go look it up. An advisor to Stephen Miller was texting an advisor to Pete Hegseth, saying that Hegseth wants the president to declare what is required to be declared, the Insurrection Act, in order to send the 82nd Airborne into Portland. This is a wild escalation. It's incredibly illegal, and it is designed specifically to violate 18 U.S.C. 241, to violate your civil rights, your right to free speech, your right to protest. This illegal criminal administration